It's time, Orlando. Time for the war on I-4. I know, every time we get on I-4 to drive to work, it's a war, but this is the official war on I-4, the humongous football game between UCF and USF Friday right here in Spectrum Stadium. I can't wait. Call it whatever you want. The war on I-4, the bounce house brawl, the fray on Black Friday. Doesn't matter what you call it because this is the biggest game in UCF-USF history. Undefeated UCF versus once beaten USF. Coach Scott Frost versus Coach Charlie Strong. Winner goes to the conference championship game. Loser gets the Gator coaching job. That's a joke. Who would have ever thought that UCF versus USF would be the biggest in-state rivalry in Florida this year? The Florida State game has become an afterthought compared to this game. I mean, UCF and USF, they have a combined record of 19-1. Florida State, combined record of 6-10. Are you kidding me? The UCF-USF rivalry may not go back that far, but there are hard feelings in this rivalry, especially on UCF's side. Remember when former USF President Judy Ginchef blocked UCF from getting into the Big East? That was a no-no. Remember when former USF coach Jim Leavitt dropped UCF from the schedule because he thought USF was too big time to play UCF? Well, Jim Leavitt has since been fired by USF. See what you get, Jim? Remember when Leavitt ran up the score 64-12 on George O'Leary's Knights? The coach wasn't very happy about that. Even though USF leads this series 6-2, UCF could even the score with one monumental win on Saturday, a win that would propel them into the conference championship game and from there perhaps into a major bowl game. That's right, I said even the score. Why? Because a win in this particular game would count more than all the other games in this series combined. Get ready, Orlando. Get ready, Tampa, because the war on I-4 has never meant more.
Mike pretty much said it. The war on I-4. Everyone here is excited. We're here live at the Fairwinds Alumni Center at UCF for the live tailgate. The game essentially is the biggest rivalry between USF, UCF. They're ready to go. All stakes are on this game. Essentially, the winner goes to the conference championship game. I have the Orlando Sentinel college football guru, Matt Michelle, also the most dapper, I'd say, dressed man in the newsroom. Matt, good to see you here. Appreciate you being here.
Apparently everyone else didn't get the memo about being dressed up.
No, man. That's what makes you stand out. So, Mike said it in the beginning. Everyone knows, unless you've been under the rock, this season for UCF has been pretty much a complete turnaround, you would say. Big, meaningful game. How did they get here to this point?
Well, I think, you saw UCF made the great decision of hiring Scott Frost. Obviously, he comes in his second season, was able really to kind of get the recruits that he's had the first couple seasons, really get them into space, really get them ready to go. And we saw them able to perform at a level that I don't think we've seen in the last couple of years, obviously, for this program. USF in the same boat. Charlie Strong comes here first year after Willie Taggart left to go take the Oregon job. Charlie Strong inherited a tremendous amount of talent. These guys were able to step up and play. Schedule wasn't as strong maybe as UCF's, but no matter what, that put them both in the same situation, and now we're facing off today.
Yeah, and it's interesting this time because it's kind of a rare rivalry in that they're in the same conference, but they haven't always played. And this is the first time where you meet these two teams actually in a spot where they're both pretty much good teams, and it means something. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly, when you look at this rivalry, they really kind of stated on the trophy itself. If you go and look at the War on I-4 trophy, you see the placards on the front, and it's kind of leans heavily towards the USF side, obviously, including last season. So what's happened now is you got this season where UCF has played really well, undefeated, obviously ranked in the playoff, number 15 in the playoff rankings. You got USF, they're just there as well, just outside the rankings themselves. They find themselves in this game with a game that actually means something. It means the winner of this goes to the conference championship game. The loser, not a bad season, but still not where they want to be, I'm sure, when this game is over.
Yeah, and you said it as far as ranking goes. teams are ranked in a top 25 AP poll, which means both these coaches are getting a lot of attention from other teams in the league. You know, Scott Frost, he's always bubbling at the top of the list of other teams looking for coaches. I guess the big question, and it's kind of the annoying question probably for fans, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Is this like a one and done? What do you say about that?
Well, I think Scott Frost is going to stay if it was me. You know, you look, obviously his name is going to be at the top of everyone's list. He is the hot candidate. He's the guy that everyone looks at and says, look at what he did at UCF. You know, imagine if he comes to my school with maybe a little bit more money, a little bit more prestige. Maybe we can actually get you to go, you know, to win a national title. But I'm just not sold that's the case, that what Scott Frost wants to do. I think Scott Frost is happy here in Orlando. I think he looks around and sees the state of the program. They're building, upgrading facilities. You look at the money they're spending, they're raising for the new athletic village here. His coaches like it, his family likes it. This is a great atmosphere. He's got a great athletic director in Danny White. Right. So I think for Scott Frost, this is a good opportunity for him. So why go somewhere else where maybe the situation isn't as good, just for the sake of maybe the almighty dollar?
Yeah, but also you think about it, the playoff system, the way it's set up, UCF probably is not going to get into it. So if you're like this star coach working up and you have aspirations of, say, going for a national title, wouldn't you think, hey, I need to go to one of those other teams to actually get into this playoff system? Wouldn't that come into a factor?
Yeah, I think that would be. Now, I don't know if it's going to come into a factor right now. You know, maybe in the next couple of years. You know, again, he's just starting out his coaching career, you know, and I think if the idea is I want to be here for my players, I want to first maybe get that first hurdle, which is get a conference championship, maybe get into a big New Year's 6 game, you know, and have an opportunity to play a good team from a Power 5 conference, maybe that will do a lot for us. Maybe in a couple of years I'll make that move. Right. But who knows? I mean, there also could be the possibility, you know, his name's come up at Nebraska. That's his, you know, where he obviously played. And, you know, he has a strict tie there, you know, because he grew up there. That's hard for a coach. You know, if you've got those home, you know, the tugging on your home strings, it's a little hard to say no to that. It just all depends on whether he feels like this is the best fit for him and his family over the next 3 or 4 years.
It's interesting. UCF right now ranked 13, USF ranked 22. Do you think UCF's ranked too low?
You know, I think they could be up higher.
Yeah.
I think the playoff selection committee members like UCF from what they've told us, but they said their schedule just isn't strong enough, you know, and I think what hurt them a little bit is, let's be honest, that losing that Georgia Tech game didn't help their situation. Also, you know, Maryland's not very good. You know, Georgia Tech wasn't really that good. I don't know if it would have helped them out enough. Right. But again, an undefeated team, you would believe they would be at least up to number 12, especially ahead of a Mississippi State team that has 3 losses. That was dominated last night by Ole Miss, which proves really the selection committee didn't do a very good job in that front. So they're not getting the love I think that most people think they should get.
Yeah, you said that because there are a few teams that have losses above them. And granted, I know the schedule and how they play, that comes into factor. But as far as with UCF, was their season this year, would you say it was a tough season, like as far as the record that they have against them?
I said I think it was a tough season, but here's what I think that stands out to me is it just was a weird season.
Okay.
You know, you think about Hurricane Irma comes through, you know, obviously they had to sit out a couple games and wait to reschedule those games because of the situation here in Central Florida. So that was really kind of a difficult situation for coach to get his players back and up really ready to go from there as well. I also think too, you know, think of the Cincinnati game that I was at. It was a downpour rain delay. They got an hour and a half rain delay. Eventually, they just called the game. That's a weird situation. Teams usually don't go through that. Yeah. So I feel like, and then you top it off, you get the Scott Frost buzz about maybe going over. So this team has faced a lot of adversity, maybe not so much on the field, but off of it, which makes it kind of a bigger challenge in some of them.
Yeah, and you said before, it's been a weird season for UCF. Would you say beforehand, like looking back now, that UCF would be undefeated at this spot? As someone that followed just college football and you know writes about it, would you say this is a surprise? Are you surprised?
I'm a little surprised. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I felt like there could be a possibility maybe to improve on last season, but I felt like, you know, we needed to see more out of Mackenzie Milton. We need to see some growth. You know, last year towards the end of the season, their offensive line was banged up, was really badly hurt. I didn't think they really played as well as they probably could have played. This year, they came out right from the start. And I think the biggest factor is, if you talk to the players, was during the offseason, they all kind of came together closer as a family. Right. They all did a lot of activities together. They went bowling, they went to movies, they did things like that. And every player told me before the season started, you know, we're so close now as a team. And the coaching staff noticed that, you know, and I think that really helped them bond as a group and is able to have them handle adversity.
That's a good point. Let's talk USF, because also very interesting story. Charlie Strong, first season with the USF Bulls. They're in pretty much the same boat. Both teams playing for the conference championship. Tell me about that team. What can you expect from them today?
Well, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a team that has yet to play a complete game. I spoke with Charlie Strong earlier this week, and he said, listen, we just haven't done that. We haven't gone from start to finish, played a good game. We've looked good at times, but haven't been able to get there. And I think that's something that's been, you know, something that's kind of been a little bit of a drawback. But they still look good. Quentin Flowers is playing really well, maybe not as good as he was last year when he won, Offensive Player of the Year, but he still looks good. The defense creates turnovers. That's something they're able to do. But he knows they've got to play a complete game today because they're facing a UCF team that has so many weapons, has so many great players on both sides of the football. They can't let a mistake here or there get to them. They can't give up the big play. That's what Charlie Strong did.
Yeah, and it's interesting, though. You said that UCF, as far as their really potent offense, USF potent defense, but UCF, they have a pretty strong defense as well. It's like they've built on that as well. Talk about that.
And a guy, it all starts with Shaquem Griffin, a guy who, last year was the American Defensive Player of the Year. He came back even stronger. You saw in the offseason, this is a guy who basically moved into the football offices in fall camp so he could sleep, eat, and breathe college football. He was in meetings. Coaches would tell us he would just be in a meeting and they wouldn't realize he was there. He wanted to learn more and more and soak it up. And then he wanted to take that knowledge, go to his other teammates, and teach them and become that leader. And I think he's kind of elevated his game here. I also think what's helped them out a lot is they've got depth at a lot of positions. They've got some tremendous talent. Mike Hughes, who came in as a late transfer, has been great for them. Everyone's really been able to do a great job with all this.
Yeah, right now it seems like UCF is favored, 11 points. Why do you think they're favored that much?
Well, I think you look at their offense. Their offense has been outstanding. I don't think they've really had a game where they've struggled to a point offensively. And I think that, you look at that USF schedule hasn't been as strong as UCF's, and you think UCF obviously being ranked higher, they're the team that should be. And you're at home. You're playing here in a great-looking crowd here at UCF.
Yeah, he said that. We want to actually look back here. As you can see, everyone's excited. We kind of knew it was going to be this kind of atmosphere because up to this point, both teams weren't exactly equal as far as with this game. It's usually always kind of a little lopsided. It really was kind of maybe for the fans, but people didn't really nationwide didn't really watch. No. Would you say right now, nationwide, there's attention on this game?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think what really helps this is it's a 3:30 kick on ABC national television. I think it really draws a lot of eyes. Listen, if you're out Black Friday, you've done your shopping this morning, you're at home on the couch, you're tired, you're trying to make up, this is a game you want to watch. And then you're interested to see, what's all the buzz about? What's Scott Frost like? What is UCF like? What is USF doing? What are they? I think people are tuned into this. I think nationally, a lot of writers are tuned into this. Listen, it's going to be a sellout, it sounds like. The press box is standing room only. I think there's a lot of demand to watch this game.
That's interesting. It is interesting. It does seem kind of fitting that it's a gloomy day for this kind of game because it's the war on I-4. You kind of expect this kind of weather, not the sunny Florida weather.
No. I think this has that kind of grizzled, everyone says, this is going to be a battle in the trenches type of feel to it.
That's interesting. Okay, as far as with the game in today, going in, what essentially, can USF not do?
They can't turn the football over.
Okay.
I think that's something that UCF does a really good job of, is forcing turnovers. They can't let UCF run up and down the field on offense. They can't let them just throw big plays. They've got to eliminate those big plays because if UCF gets a big pass play or a big running play, Adrian Killing's run or something like that, all of a sudden you're playing catch-up. And I don't think this USF team really is good playing catch-up. I think they have some things they have to do. So that's going to be a challenge for them as well. I think also USF can't let the emotion, the first 5 minutes of this game, the emotion get to them. Because believe me, when these guys step on the field, they're going to hear the crowd. There's going to be a buzz. There's going to be so much going on. They can't let that become a factor.
Whoa. We're live! Sean Pitts! As you can see, it's getting a little crazy in here as we have alumni just walking in any time. But that's how it is at the Fairwood Alumni Center. We're going to talk to Sean in a little bit, but I want to get back to Matt.
See, that's the craziness of the war on I-4.
I got that. So let's get back as far as the season goes. Florida, in general, as far as different teams, would you have ever said at the beginning of the season that this game would have been a bigger game than, say, the Florida State UF game? That just seems to turn out to be a bit of a dud season for both of them.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have thought that. I think when you look around these two teams, I think they thought Florida and Florida State would be where they normally are. I had Florida State, kind of competing, in possible playoff spot, you know. So for them to have those injuries they had, losing John DeFrancois, you saw that they've had issues on the offensive line. Florida obviously has its issues. They fired their coach halfway through, or he leaves halfway through the season, basically. So I don't think anyone would have thought that. These two teams have done what they needed to do. They focused on the task at hand. They've recruited this area very well.
Yeah.
USF recruits Tampa very well. UCF recruits Central Florida very well. They've kind of focused on what they have to do, and now they're playing in the biggest game in the state of Florida this year.
Sure. Would you say this is the first time maybe this game has reached that level that you kind of get from Florida State?
Oh yeah, I think so. This is crowd, honestly, I was just telling Mike Bianchi off air that I think this is a bigger crowd than Florida State probably would have had.
Yeah.
This group is fired up, and it's not just on the here tailgating, it's the people on social media.
Yeah.
My timeline has been filled. I get it, UCF fans. I get it, USF fans. War on I-4. You filled up my timeline. I'm just trying to put in stuff about my turkey yesterday, and I have to talk about UCF and USF. So again, there's a lot of buzz on this game.
Yeah, as much as crazy as you guys have been on social media, the interesting is players seem to be trying to lay low. I think they understand if they open their mouth, run their mouth for this game, they don't want to have anything like that'll get the other team fired up. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think so, and I think every team wants to find something to grab onto, to try to maybe use as a possible, some sort of buzz to push them. I think the players themselves don't want to avoid that. I think the coaches have done a really good job of that.
Yeah.
Let's not let these guys let's not let this game too big. Charlie Strong talked about this the other day that you can't let this game. It isn't just another game. It's a big game,
right?
But it is another game. You can't let the game and the magnitude overwhelm you because again, if you let that happen, it gets away from you. You lose the game, and then everything just kind of spirals off after that. These two games. Listen, whoever wins this game's got to go on and play another conference. They got to play the conference championship, and then they got to go on and play in a big bowl game. The loser still has to go and play a good bowl game, so they've got to keep focused on that as well.
Let's talk about that conference game, because if UCF wins, it essentially comes back here. USF loses, they're probably going on the road. Who do you think they would end up playing?
Memphis has locked it up already. Memphis is going to be the team that they're going to face. UCF obviously knows Memphis very well.
Yeah.
We saw what happened earlier this year. There's still a little bit of bad blood between those two programs.
Yeah.
Memphis is playing really well right now, very good offense. So there would be a challenge there. It'd be a lot of high scoring, I think, in that situation. Yeah. USF, again, going on the road, always tough to play on a conference championship game. But again, whether it's UCF or USF, I think that conference championship game is going to have a lot of buzz going into it.
It sure does. As you can see, ton of buzz going on right back here. Let's talk about some of the other big games happening. I know you had something online today. Talk about other games to watch this week. What are those games?
Well, I think, obviously Ohio State, Michigan, everyone knows that big rivalry between those two schools, the school up north and Ohio State. Again, a game where Ohio State needs to win because they want to make a statement to the playoff committee, because if they can win the Big Ten, then they got an opportunity maybe to possibly play for a playoff spot. You look at some of the other games, the Apple Cup, Washington State. The Pac-12 is kind of out of the playoff hunt, but that's still a big game because whoever wins that game goes to play on. If Washington State wins that game, they go to play, for the Pac-12 championship.
Sure.
So that's a big game as well. And then, I think you're always going to see some of those matchups. This game was one as well.
Yeah, let's talk about UCF. At what point in this season would you say that they actually put an exclamation point and say, "Hey, we're for real"? Is there a point that happened this season?
I think the Memphis game was to me was the point there for real, because that game had so much buzz because again, rescheduled game, going off the Hurricane Irma situation. There's a lot of buzz around that game. There's a lot, like I said, just kind of bad blood between them. They get on the field. People thought that was going to be a close game. Boom, what does UCF do? They come out and really blow them out. They dominated from start to finish. And that game really kind of was the exclamation point on, listen, we're a good team this year. We're not going to be surprised by anyone. No one's just going to come walk into our arena and beat us, or our field and beat us. You're going to have to fight for it. I think that's what they were able to do.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point, because it does seem like that was the game where it happened. As far as USF, was there a game, would you say, that they put on the map saying, hey, this is our season, we're for real?
Well, I think, honestly, the game that stood out for them was the first game, San Jose State. I don't want to say it for real, but that game, what that did was they fell behind in that game, and it was the first game of the year, and everyone thought, oh my gosh, this team was supposed to pick to win the American. They didn't win. They came back to win that game. I think that was a game that kind of they were able to build on that to say, okay, any day, any week, someone can try to beat us. We've got to play our best.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Matt. As you can see, I'm here with Matt Michelle. Exciting atmosphere here. We're live at UCF at the Fairwinds Alumni Center. I'm going to wrap up here with Matt, but of course he's here. He's probably going to hang out, play some cornhole maybe, but always such good points coming from our, I essentially would say, college football guru at the Sentinel. We're going to go ahead and head over to talk about Mackenzie Milton. Mike Bianchi went out and interviewed him this week, and we're going to go ahead and roll that.
I'm a Heisman voter. I think I should vote for you for a Heisman. What do you think?
I appreciate that very much. Yes, sir.
Have you even thought about that? Should you be getting some consideration for that?
I mean, that's not for me to decide. I think just doing my job and keep winning games, and let the media and whoever else decides that to make their decision. But if we just keep winning games, I'm fine with whatever happens.
What do you think about the name, the War on I-4?
I think it's pretty cool. I think it's exciting. I think it gets fans hyped up, players hyped up, and it's a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it.
How many hard feelings are there from last year when they sort of ran the score up on you guys at the end? Have you guys talked about that?
I mean, we haven't really talked about it. I don't think there's really much that needs to be said. Honestly, we know what's at stake. We know they're our rivals. We know they're a very capable team, but so are we. So we're just excited for the challenge. We know what they're gonna bring, but we're gonna bring something for them want to.
Little history lesson for you, UCF-USF. Did you know USF once blocked UCF from getting into the Big East?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Because USF was in the Big East and UCF was not in a major conference at the time. And UCF was trying to get in the Big East, and USF said, no, 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 no. We don't want them in with us because that way they would be on even ground with us. So that was a block.
Oh, I see. That's a little history lesson. That's pretty cool. Maybe that'd be extra motivation to see.
All right, last one. If you guys have a chance to repay them for last year, will you?
You talking about like run up the score? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's really in our nature. We're gonna score as much points as we can, though. I know that for sure. We just want to main thing, just get the win. That's for sure.
Hey, as you can see, Mackenzie Milton, very, very interesting season for him, racking up the points this year as far as with the offense, and it all kind of comes down to that guy turned it around. Also going on behind us, as you can see, UCF fans, they're going nuts. This is a big game. This game actually means so much, and I actually have Louis Lubin here. You're part of the Fairwinds Alumni Center, but you also are a former player. I wanted to ask about that. What's it like being a former player, be in this situation? What does it mean for someone like you that's an alumni?
Well, I played in 1992. I was a freshman in 92, and we didn't have an on-campus stadium. We played at the Citrus Bowl, and it was just, university was smaller, but we had aspirations to have a type of program and a type of university that you see today, where you can have an on-campus stadium. Every game is going to be packed. Fans are having a great time.
Heisman voter.
Themselves while we're tailgating on campus. That was foreign to me, playing, in the early 90s. But it's as an alumnus, as a former football player, very proud to see where we are today.
Yeah, as a player though, like whenever you see the other players going to the field, is it a piece of pride in you that like it swells up, or how's that feel?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of pride because I know that I've been where they are. I've played in those tough games. We never got a chance to play USF. But we've had great challenges. We played FSU. We traveled all the way to play the University of Hawaii 1 year. So I just remember those times of practicing and getting ready, and the preparation and the focus and the game planning, and then seeing all of that happen when you get on the field and fighting for a victory. So I always get that funny feeling every time I see them step on the field and play.
Yeah, let's talk about the game as far as today.
Okay.
Like as far as the rivalry goes, does it feel like this is the real deal rivalry today?
No, it is. And I think that both coaches have really done a good job leading their program. USF is 9-1. We're perfect, and our expectation is that we're going to be perfect after the day is over. And so to have these two programs going into the game with a 19-1 record combined, it's amazing. This is obviously going to be just it's going to be a crazy day.
Yeah.
Fans are going to be getting after it. I was in Publix today picking up some things on my way in, and there was a guy in there with a USF shirt on, and I kind of paused and looked at him a little bit before I continued on with my shopping. So everybody's feeling it right now.
That's pretty cool. Did you kind of want to acknowledge it, maybe give him some knuckles or something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that he knows exactly where he is. This is O-Town. This is Orlando. This is Central Florida.
That's awesome.
This is not the Bay Area. So they're going back home with a loss.
I like how you mentioned that whenever you said it's O-Town, even when you mentioned, UCF is perfect, you wanted to emphasize that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We are perfect.
Yeah, let's talk about the Alumni Association. What's going on here today? Because you guys are having a big party here. What's happening?
Well, I'm the director of the Alumni Center, and every home game we have what we call an indoor tailgate. The reality is some fans, they don't like to tailgate outside, they don't like the heat, they don't like the rain, they don't like to use the porta potties. So we offer an alternative where you can come inside the UCF Alumni, the UCF Fairwinds Alumni Center. You can come in here, clean bathrooms. We have video screens in here, so we show other games that are going on throughout the day. We have free drinks, we have concessions food, so it's just a great time inside for people to enjoy. We're expecting a large crowd today, so if you are planning on coming to the Alumni Center, you better make sure that you get here early, because we will be at capacity.
Yeah, he didn't mention that because it is getting a little crazy out there as far as getting to the game. It seems like the traffic is starting to pack up a little bit. Even some of the people that are going to be talking to us later on in the show, they're having trouble getting here because they're stuck in traffic, which, that just says the magnitude of this game going on here. Do you think any chance the Alumni Association here, does it start spilling out and heading out there, would you say?
Well, actually, the group that's right behind us, that is all alumni. That entire section that's directly behind us is reserved for alumni. So all of those tents are our graduates. And so they're having a great time. We're out there, we're inside, we're all over campus, and we're enjoying ourselves, and we all feel the same.
Yeah.
Now is our time.
Do you expect this team, like, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. It seems like it might sell out today. Do you expect that?
Yeah, it's going to be a sellout.
Yeah.
And we can tell with our pre-registration numbers for our event inside, it's going to be extremely packed, and it's just going to be a great UCF day.
All right, well, thanks for that, Lewis. I really do appreciate the time. So, Lewis, former player, as I mentioned before, biggest game for UCF-USF today. This rivalry is happening. All cards on the table. Both teams have great schedules this season. Both teams have held their own in it. As far as UCF, 10-0. USF, 9-1. So essentially, both teams are playing for the conference championship. This means a lot. So we're going to go ahead and talk with Shannon Green here. She's going to give us an update on the game. Lewis, thank you very much, Shannon. Appreciate you being here. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way. Appreciate it. So Shannon Green, our UCF beat writer for the Orlando Sentinel. I asked the same question to Matt. As someone that's covering this team, are you surprised that they're at this point right now 10-0? Would you say you're a bit surprised?
I would say I'm a little bit surprised, to be perfectly honest with you, because after last season, you didn't really know how it was going to go. They were 6-7 last year. They always had a lot of talent, and they have a ton of weapons. But, you know, the offensive line was a little bit shaky last year. So depending on how the offensive line was going to look coming into this season, that was going to tell you how this team was going to be. So once things kind of started rolling early, 10-0 wasn't that surprising.
Okay, before you go, I want to go ahead and point out that we have Matt Michelle, Mike Bianchi playing cornhole. They're getting ready. George Diaz is here. It's actually the greatest of the Orlando Sentinel columnists and writers right here for this exciting game. Shannon, I want to go ahead and point out, too, this game, it means a lot. We all know that, unless you've been under a rock. As far as, it's kind of a rare occurrence that both these teams are playing at the same time with a record like this. Talk about that.
Yeah, this is both teams at their finest. You know,
Yeah.
This is the second best record right now for USF, and they've never won a conference championship before. So this is a very big moment for USF. UCF, if they could win today and advance on for the conference championship, that would be their third. So both programs are at the top of their game. This game is supposed to be even higher build than Florida State.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a big deal to really see this rivalry sort of eclipse something that's a little bit more classic in the terms of those schools have been around longer.
No, that's a good point. Let's talk about the game. As far as today's game, what does UCF need to do to be successful in this game? Same question for USF, but let's start with UCF.
I think for UCF, they need to just keep doing what they've been doing. Because
Okay.
if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mackenzie Milton has been lights out all season. He has so many weapons. I mean, Traquan Smith, Jordan Akins, you got ham and cheese, you have Juice. You just have so many players that can really execute this offense. And the offensive line has been great this season. So I think as long as they continue to play at the level that they've been playing on offense, they're fine. On defense, they have got to stop Quentin Flowers.
Okay.
Quentin Flowers he is the man. Let's just say that right now. He's really good. He's already passed Tim Tebow in terms of career yardage for rushing yards for a quarterback. So he can run. He's very effective. He can burn you on the edges. So I definitely think the defense has to step up and have a big game.
Okay, you said the defense because USF, they have a potent defense. UCF, they have a potent offense. Would you say this is the best defense this UCF team will see this season in this game?
Yeah, I would easily say this is the best defense that they'll see all season. They're the #1 defense in the conference. They're #2 nationally in interceptions. They return 4 of 5 of their starters on the secondary. So this is a very explosive defense that USF is bringing. So it's Clash of the Titans. It's the best offense, the best defense. This is what you want to see in a rivalry game.
I think you said that Clash of the Titans. As far as the players go, have you been around any players? Do you get the temperament as far as how they are going into this game?
They're very focused.
Okay.
What I thought was interesting at Media Day on Monday, Jemias Pittman sort of ran down to talk to us. He was sweating. He was like, I was excited to talk to you guys. Normally, he's the guy that's going to give you like the very raw answer on things. Even he was a little bit more tailored in his responses.
Okay.
So I feel like they're being very conscious this week to not start anything on Twitter or not get too engaged in the trash talk. And also, I think they're very focused because they understand everything they've done this season could, essentially go down the drain if they lose this game.
Right.
So there's a Peach Bowl game on the line, and they want to go.
Let's talk about that. As far as the conference game, if they go on past this, what are their chances of winning against Memphis, would you say?
Well, they've already beat Memphis once.
Okay.
But that means nothing
Yeah.
in the conference championship game.
Yep.
Actually, it could be even harder because that means Memphis is going to have a chip on their shoulder to beat UCF. So I think that the way these teams match up, I think that UCF will still have the edge, especially because they know their offense, they know their defense. They bring a slightly stronger offense into that game, which is very important. I think if they beat Memphis, if they win today and beat Memphis,
yep,
they're going to be eating peaches.
Yeah, that's right. After this game, all bets are off. It seems like you go into a conference champion game, it's almost like it starts over. You get there, you're getting a real team. The UCF team, some of those big stories of this year, what would you say have been the standouts for this team this season?
Well, I think obviously Shaquem Griffin is always a big story. Their outside linebacker, you know, he is such an inspirational kid. For those who don't know his story, if you've been living under a rock, he plays football with one hand. He had his left hand amputated when he was a child due to a birth defect, but that doesn't stop him. Shaquem is the man. Yeah, he can play, he can ball. So I definitely think he's been another huge story. His sack numbers are down this year, but that's because teams are double teaming him. So he's had to prepare for that. And they put him in certain man coverage situations that have eliminated receivers. So some of the things that he's done, you can't really necessarily see on film, but the coaches know. He's been a great story for them.
Would you say UCF, as far as what they're ranking right now, ranked 11th, would you say that's about right?
Well, the rankings that we mostly pay attention to is the college football playoff rankings. Okay. That's what's got everybody's, you know, blood boiling, if you will, because they originally came out at number 18. A lot of people, including myself, thought they would probably come out at number 15 around that spot, and then they would have moved up to maybe even in the 10th spot by now, but that didn't happen. So they started out at 18, they've moved up to 15. I don't know what else they have to do in order to get some kind of respect and looks from the CFP committee to move up. I don't know.
That's right.
I feel like they've done everything they can do. They're beating teams by like 70 points a game. So
yeah, no, you're
what
right.
Else do you do?
You're right. Let's talk about that. It's kind of like a little bit of an annoying buzz. I'd say probably for the team with Scott Frost, as far as other colleges maybe potentially putting him on the list as far as you could be our head coach next season. Do you think that's been a distraction for this team?
No, I don't think it's been a distraction. Again, this is a football team that lost every single game 2 years ago. So I think they've learned a thing or two about dealing with distractions. The younger players obviously weren't here for it, but they know from learning from the older players what distractions can do and how they can really cause a team to self-implode. So I think because of that experience, I think they're even more mentally disciplined to not allow any outside distractions take away their focus from the important thing of winning this conference championship.
I think that says a lot, and it goes to say, like you said, they don't even want to start anything. It's almost kind of like we just want to focus on going on this game. We don't want to start anything. UCF, interesting. One of the more potent offenses in the country this year. Would you say like they are one of the best offenses?
They're the number one scoring offense in the country.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question that they're one of the best offenses in the country.
Okay.
You can make a case that they are the best offense in the country. And again, I've said this before, but it's important to acknowledge that offensive line because that was the biggest difference from last year to this year. That offensive line improved. They got more experience. They have more depth because they had a lot of injuries last season too that also contributed to that. So they have been playing lights out, and that has also helped Mackenzie Milton become as efficient as he is.
Yeah. What point do you say this season would you say UCF said, this is it, we're for real, you guys need to watch us?
Game one.
Game one? You think that was game one?
Yeah. Because remember, they lost the Cure Bowl last year, so they ended the season on sort of a sour note after a very triumphant, you know, hey, we turned the thing around, we turned the ship around. So I think they came out from game one ready to say, hey, we can win this conference championship. 2 years ago, I remember talking to Aaron Evans, the left tackle, and I remember him saying then, we're an 8-4 team. Now, they ended up going 6-7, but I think they knew all along they had the talent to get this done. It was just a matter of when things would start clicking. And now that it's clicked and guys know what they're going to do every game, I think they're very confident that they can pull this off.
No, you said that from game one. Let's talk real quick. You did a story about the 5 key moves that this team did to say, get to this point. Can you talk about some of that? Number one, you said a close-knit staff. Talk about that.
I think having a close-knit staff, that pays huge dividends for this team because when they see their coaches getting along and there's no egos, and first of all these assistant coaches are very smart. The linebackers coach, Coach DeWitt, he has a degree in mathematics and physics. Okay?
I'd say pretty
physics
smart. Yeah,
and math.
That's right. That's right.
So I just got to throw that out there. You know, Coach Redusko has a master's degree. These are very intelligent guys.
Yeah.
And I think when you put that much brain power together in a room and there's no egos and they're getting along and they're all contributing to the call sheet, I think it creates a great synergy.
Right.
And that's what every team needs. You need great synergy. In addition to that, the players know that these coaches care about them. And I always say, it's a cliche, when people know how much you care, then they care about how much you know.
Right.
So that's played a huge difference for them. Another thing I talked about was nutrition.
Right.
Which I know that sounds like a
It
throwaway
does seem
thing.
like, come on, really? Were the players before really that out of shape? Come on.
No, it's not that they were necessarily that out of shape. It was that the system changed.
Okay.
So because the system changed and it became a more tempo system and you had a lot more speed, that meant some guys needed to get leaner.
Okay.
Some guys needed to put on muscle mass.
Right.
And they had to have a great strength and conditioning coach to come in and really get these kids on board.
Yeah.
So also they don't have a training table. That was one of the first things that Scott Frost talked about when he took this job, because he's come from a Power 5
Right.
program where they have, training tables and food and equipment, all this good stuff. So UCF didn't have that.
Yeah.
So because he's pushed for that, now they're going to open the Bob and Carol Garvey Nutrition Center next year. So they took the current recruiting lounge and they sort of converted it into a training table right now. But that's going to be a huge difference for them as well. So the assistant coaches, nutrition, the offensive line, which I've talked about, Mackenzie Milton. I mean,
Let's talk about him, because he was one of those guys, smaller guy. He packed on 8 pounds. Talk about that. He was one of those guys that he seemed like they built him up too.
Yeah, they did. And obviously, anytime you get more experience and more reps doing something, you're going to get better.
Right.
So I've talked to the coach, quarterbacks coach, Mario Verduzco. He's talked a lot about how he has a quick twitch, if you will. He's very creative when he's out there. So when plays break down, Mackenzie knows exactly what he wants to do. He's good at going through all of his reads. He's just a very bright, smart kid. So, I mean, you can't really say enough good things about Mackenzie Milton, especially when you look at where he came from last year to this year. Very bright kid.
Yeah, turnaround too. Let's talk about last year too. UCF, they had a strong defense, and it seems like they've just built on that. This year, defense is pretty strong as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been interesting about the team this year is the secondary. And the reason I point them out is because they lost their entire starting secondary last year.
Right.
All those guys got NFL contracts, which is good for them, including Shaquille Griffin with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
So they had to replace a lot of experience. And they've been able to do that. Now, this group hasn't necessarily been last year's group yet, but they have been very effective. You've seen younger players like Brandon Moore, Bam Moore, step up from Seminole High School. So he's gotten some good reps. They had another great pickup in Mike Hughes, a junior college transfer. He's been a special team stud for them on top of cornerback. So I think that this group has really outperformed the expectations just because people didn't know what to expect out of them since they didn't have the experience.
Yeah, let's talk about UCF as far as with that offense on the offensive side. Potent. A day like this where it's rainy, overcast, does that come into factor with them?
No, I don't think it does as much. If this was last year, I would have said yeah.
Okay.
But also what's interesting, last year when they played at UConn, which was cold and rainy and whatnot, that was Mackenzie Milton's best game of the season.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't know, maybe they like the elements and the adversity, maybe that pulls out the best in them. But I'm not really sure if it's going to rain today, and if it does, I heard it's just going to be a drizzle.
Yeah.
Which, when it rains, that lends itself to a running game.
Yep, sure.
So they've got a lot of rushers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think if anything, they would get the advantage.
Sure. Let's talk real quick too. If as far as bowls go, what bowl would they be aiming for if they keep going? If they keep this streak going, where do you think they end up?
I mean, well, the only bowl game that a group of 5 school can really aim for that's at the top level is the Peach Bowl.
Right.
So, I mean, that's $20 million extra dollars in the bank for the conference, which is great. That's a big difference between potentially $2 million at another bowl game. It's in Atlanta, January 1st, New Year's Day Bowl. So that is pretty much everything. That's all the marbles. That's what you're going for. You're going to get that peach.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Shannon Green. Appreciate it. We're here at UCF Live, Fairwinds Alumni Center. Shannon dropping her knowledge as far as she's our UCF beat writer, and she'll be following the game today, so keep an eye on her on Orlando.com. Also, we have some alumni here that we want to talk to. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. I have Sean Pitts. He's here. He's a UCF guy. Came, gone. He's traveled, what? 300 yards. I'm in football mode. 300 miles.
It's all kind of relative at
That's
that
right.
point, I mean, when you're a UCF fan, when it's USF Hate Week, you got to show up.
Yeah.
Because I've shown up, I think at least 4 out of the is this like the 10th game?
This is 8 games. We're at 8 games.
We're only at 8 games?
Yep.
Oh, that's right, because there's that break in the middle where they disrespected us.
Yep.
And they literally were like, we don't need to play you anymore. We're in the Big East. We're going to go play other better teams. And I'm just like, wow, did that really happen? And then you know what happened? UCF won the Fiesta Bowl.
That's right.
So any USF fans that are out there that still think they're better than us, it's not true. It's just not true.
What does it mean for fans? Like, as far as someone that's graduated from here, kind of, you've had a team when they're bad teams, you've had a team when they're good teams. What does it mean?
Rich, I have seen my first year going to UCF was, I think, back in 2003, 4. Well, I just stated myself.
That's all right. We're fine.
We went 0-12 out I always say 0-16 because I'm also used to that Dolphins year. We almost went 0-16. But anyway, and I saw them lose every game that season. I saw them come back and then win a game. I think it was like week 4 or 5, and we tore down the goalpost. I was part of that. It was great. And I remember at the time, the UCF athletic director at the time said, I'll pay for that all day.
Yeah.
Like, I remember him not even being upset. I remember him being like, yeah, I will do that every time that UCF wins a game if, the fans want to do it. And I remember the fans reacting huge to that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I was around for, I think, 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago when UCF went winless again.
I gotcha.
So
Yep.
I've been around for the bad
You've had a good
times.
time.
Also, I don't know if you see the koozie. I'm a Cowboys fan. I stick around for the bad teams.
We had to pull the
Bad times.
Cowboys
Yeah,
into it.
I know. Well,
Let's-
you have to.
Let's talk about alumni here.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, have you found a buzz with like people that you know, friends?
Oh,
Like,
I
what's it
definitely
been
found a
like
buzz,
watching
Rich.
this? Like, what's it like watching this team this season for you guys?
Well, you know what? It reminds me a lot of the 2014.
2014, yeah, Fiesta Bowl.
2014 Fiesta Bowl season with Blake Bortles, and like I think a lot of the fans, the people I talk to, they see that same kind of magic that happened. Not to bring it back to Orlando, it's a magical place, but when that season was just insane. There were so many unpredictable things that happened. That JJ Wharton, literally the catch. That's just
right.
known. You search that on Google, that's the #1 SEO
Yep.
thing that comes up. And it's like one of the most magical seasons ever. This season was more the one, I wouldn't say it is magical, more that it was almost just, I think it was almost predictable. The way that UCF hires their coaches and their staff and everyone, it was genius.
Yeah.
It's like just the way that they grew the university. It's amazing. And so we believe so strongly in Scott Frost that like my original outfit, Rich, and I'm a little upset that you're not wearing it,
Oh, yeah.
is the Scott Frost gray slacks,
Okay.
white polo, and the confidence level that they have, this team, the identity changed so fast.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
You mentioned that because you said that Fiesta Bowl team, they were the cardiac knights.
They
then.
were-
This is a complete different, would you say?
Yes, this is a completely different one because you're right. I haven't felt that same level of like, oh my God, we might lose this. But the way that the college football playoff rankings are working now, I feel like we're just constantly disrespected. Like we're still, number 15?
Yep.
And I'm just like, wow. And they're waiting for us to lose today. I feel like that's what the college football playoff committee's doing. They're just waiting for us to lose today so they can throw some team they was always predicted to go into, the group of 5 or whatever, to make it into it, And they're just waiting for USF to make it. And it's like, no. USF, when USF loses, they lose against us, and that's my favorite time for them to lose. So.
That's interesting. Let's just, before you go, what do you say? I'm going to ask you to look in your crystal ball. Give me what you think this team's going to do today.
Oh. I mean, the better question is, by how much?
Oh.
Because if okay, well, I won't present it that way. I'm going to go with, I think UCF will win 42.
Oh, man, you're going high.
42 to 21. But when you see that on the end in history, we look back on this, 10 of those points were in garbage time for USF. You know what I mean? Just our defense is good, but there's a lot of points that get stacked up. We need to do some style points, the 2013 season. We had a lot of acrobatics. We had a lot of showing off that we did. Although, hey, I will tell you this, Rich. I don't know if on this show yet you talked about Mac Loudermilk.
Not yet. You go, my man.
My favorite player. I mean, he's up there with Blake Bortles.
Okay.
Mac Loudermilk, the punter. I don't know if anyone's watched this guy. He is built like a linebacker, like a tight end. He is huge. And every time he kicks a killer punt, because it's kind of rare that he has to punt, is what I mean. He always kicks awesome punts. He literally celebrates like it was a grand slam. And I mean, literally, one of his hits, he did the home run swing. His next one, I think he did a golf swing.
All right.
And then I hope today, when he has the one chance to punt, he does a nice bowling strike and just bowls it over. And we won't even get into some of the other players that celebrate in other ways with cans and beers and things we won't even talk about that.
That's fine. Well, that's great. Well, Sean, I'm not going to keep you from tailgating much more.
Wait.
All right. You
Rich,
don't want to keep
as
me
a
from
true
doing a live show much
tailgate,
more.
as a true tailgate fanatic,
Yes.
I brought a beer for you.
Whoa! See,
Just
now
for you.
You got to hold the mic.
I will
then, man.
hold the mic.
All right, I'm in on that because it's it's party time
It
here.
is.
I might
It
have to
is.
indulge.
It is.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers to you.
Thanks. I'm actually joining in with a bunch of fans. Sean Pitts, I appreciate it. Enjoy the
Cheers.
game. Cheers, my friend. You know, you talked about those players. We're going to go ahead and run a segment about some of those players and what they thought about the big game today.
We've come this far to not let up, so why let up now? So we have great preparation coming into this week, and we're looking forward to an awesome game, and we're going to execute on all 3 phases of the game. So everyone knows what they're doing, and everyone's healthy, and we're looking forward to this game.
There's 2 high caliber teams coming at each other, you know, fighting for the same goal, and we know that they're going to get our best, and we know we're going to get their best.
You know, sometimes as a coach you have to insert some energy and juice, and sometimes it's something else. I don't think we'll have any problem being fired up and ready to play, particularly with this stadium hopefully sold out and the team we're playing.
A lot of times you get in a rival's game, if they're not very good, then the games don't have much significance to us. But this game, you go undefeated and a 1 loss, so it's really big. And the good thing about it is you're looking at 2 schools that are just right down I-4, you know, hour and a half apart. And what you know, it's going to be a big build-up in the very beginning, but then the game's going to settle down. And once it settles down, you have to play football.
I'm looking forward to get that revenge back at our house. So it's a sold-out crowd. I can't wait.
Man, the excitement continues here at the Fairwinds Alumni Center at UCF. We are live, and I have Mike Bianchi, I have George Zias, 2 of the Orlando Sentinel columnists, and they're going to help us break this down. I'm going to let them go scrap mano y mano to figure out who's going to win this game. I'm going to go ahead and start with Mike. Mike, as far as the game, who wins this game today?
Oh, I think UCF wins the game comfortably. They played better throughout the season. USF has not played well the last few weeks. They lost to Houston a couple weeks ago. They barely beat a 2-9 Tulsa team. So I think USF, with a lot to play for, wins this game comfortably.
It means a lot for them. George, would you agree? Do you think this is UCF's game?
Well, as much as it pains me to agree with my esteemed colleague, got to go with UCF. I mean, for some of the factors Mike mentioned, of course, this offense has been unstoppable, as we all know. The fact that UCF is at home, this is, you know, you cap off an undefeated season. There are so many things that in play, intangibles, working in favor of UCF. I think they win easily, double digits.
I'm going to stay here with you. Are you surprised they're this good this year?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you always think they're going to improve. They obviously made great strides in the Scott Frost's first year, but nobody sets the bar and says, hey, we're going to go whatever it is. So, yeah, I think that whoever says they weren't surprised by this is lying.
Yeah, Mike, were you surprised? Come on. You come out the game, you want to go winless, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you go from 0-12 to unbeaten in 2 years, I mean, Scott Frost even said it this week. He goes, I never thought we would be here this quickly. So if the coach and his assistants are surprised, then obviously everybody else is. And Diaz is right. If you say you're not surprised, you're lying, because nobody thought UCF 2 years ago, not even 2 years ago, would you know, they had the worst offense in the country, one of the worst defenses in the country, and now they have the best offense in the country and a darn good defense as well.
Yeah, you said surprise. Scott Frost is surprised. Is there any surprise now that, you know, other teams are coming to, like, knocking on his door saying, hey, we want you to coach? That's the big question. I'm going to let you guys debate this one out. Scott Frost, does he stay? Does he go?
I think Scott Frost stays, believe it or not. Yeah. Obviously, he's got a lot of opportunities. He could probably have the Gator job if he wanted it. He could certainly have the Nebraska job if he wants it. Tennessee is out there. Texas A&M might be open after this weekend. So, yeah, I think Scott Frost is going to have a lot of opportunities. But he's a different cat. He is a different character. He's very patient. He waited his turn when he was a quarterback in college. He waited his turn, waited behind Tommy Frazier, and waited to start. And I think Scott Frost had the idea in his head, I'm going to be at UCF 3 or 4 years, and I think he's going to stick to that. I do.
Yeah, do you think after 3 or 4 years, I mean, aspirations of, hey, I want to go win a national title, would he go on, do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be here forever, but I think he might be here for a couple more years. I hope he's here for a couple more years because he's made football in this city fun again.
Yeah, you're right. George, same question. It seems, because you seem rumblings of, like, why would he stay here? Because they can't get into this playoff system right now. Would you say he stays this time?
In honor of the late, great Glenn Fry and the Eagles, let's cue up Already Gone.
Oh, man.
Hey, I don't begrudge him, but I just think, Rich, you take the money and you go with it when he's hot right now. And I don't think you can get any hotter than an undefeated season. And if there are suitors, and obviously Nebraska seems to be interested, I wouldn't blame him for leaving. So I really think that he goes, and I don't begrudge him. I don't blame him. I don't think UCF fans should begrudge him. But hey, like this is just like a college prospect. If you are at the pinnacle of your game and there's really nothing else to shoot for the following season, as great a run as it's been here at UCF, you go to the next level.
Well, there is something else
What
he
else
can
is
shoot
it?
for.
Hang out with you another year?
He could go unbeaten this year, but guess what? He's unbeaten and not even getting a sniff of the college football playoff. If he follows up this unbeaten with an unbeaten next year, I will guarantee you they will get into the college football playoff next year. He would be the first non-Power 5 program in the playoff. I think that's something to shoot for if you're Scott Frost.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point. We'll see if that happens. Let's talk about UCF, the team. Most potent offense this time. I'm going to go ahead and put this one out there. Would you say this team is better than the Blake Bortles Fiesta Bowl team? Would you, if you were to compare the two, which team is better?
Oh, there's no comparison. The Blake Bortles Fiesta Bowl team, they were fortunate to win about 5 or 6 games on their schedule. They barely beat Temple. They had the J.J. Wharton miracle catch. They barely beat a bad USF team that year. Go down the list. They struggled to win some of those games. Now, that was a lot more exciting team because they came down to the wire on a bunch of games, but this team is dominant. This team much, much better than that team. Much better.
Interesting. George, would you say the same?
It's kind of like the Shaquille O'Neal, Dwight Howard thing. I mean, they were both great. You know, they both ended up leaving and breaking everybody's hearts. That's another theme for another day. But I got to agree with Mike. This team has been so dominant. I mean, there has been nothing close to even, or are they going to get through the fourth quarter? This has just been, gas to the pedal, going full blast. You've got to love this team and what they've accomplished and just the way that they've been. There have been some bad opponents along the way, but guess what? You blow out bad opponents, right, and that's what they've done.
And they have blown out those bad opponents, and you mentioned that as far as their record this season, most potent offense. Would you say they are the best offense in the country?
It's you get into apples and oranges because they're not playing the Alabamas and they're not playing the Georgias or whatever, but you can't do. All you can do is compete at the level. Play the teams that are on your schedule, and based on that, they've been pretty impressive. I don't know. I think we get into a little bit of apples and oranges if they face an Alabama defense, that kind of thing. But boy, they've been impressive otherwise.
Yeah. What about Mike? Best
offense in the country? Well, they're the number 1 scoring offense in the country. And again, statistically, the thing you want to do is score points and score touchdowns, and they do that better than anybody in the country. Total offense, I think they're in the top 5. So, yeah, is this the best offense? I mean, you've got Oklahoma out there with Baker Mayfield. Yeah. I mean, statistically,
He's going Scott Frost is saying, and they've got the great offense ever in the history.
If you score more points than anybody, the object of the game is to score points. So, therefore, yes, they're the best offense in the country.
Diving into the deep end of the pool here with UCF. Bless him.
That's right. He's there. Well, let's talk about this. The rivalry. Is this a real rivalry, would you say? Because it seems like a strange one that they haven't played all these years. Is this a real rivalry?
Oh, absolutely. They've only played 8 times, but yeah, I mean, you've got the thing you need for a rivalry is you got to have hate. You got to have that sports hate, and especially on USF side or UCF side, they have a lot of animosity toward USF because of what's happened in the past. USF tried to keep them out of the Big East and did keep them out of the Big East. Jim Leavitt, the former USF coach, would not play UCF for a lot of years, which is why they've only played 8 times. So, yeah, USF has been on their high horse for a lot of years, and now this is UCF's chance to maybe pay them back today.
What do you think? Do you think this is as big as rivalry, say, FSU? Would you say it's getting there?
Mike made a lot of good points, but he forgot to mention that the South Florida athletic director had his tire slashed a few years ago while he was here. That brings it home, baby. The tire slashing factor, that takes them over the top and makes it a bona fide rivalry. Not as great as the civil conflict, hashtag sarcasm, but I'm going with the tire slashing theme, and yes, big time rivalry.
That's right. As far as you said rivalry goes, do you think this rusty UCF stadium can even hold this game?
Let's hope so, because I'll be way at the top, and if it doesn't, I'm going down, and so is Bianchi, by the way. So, I don't know who's going to file for, for our paper, but I hope so. But I hope they get these things kind of straightened out. It would help, wouldn't it?
I say that jokingly. What do you think, man? You think this stadium can contain this game?
Oh, yes. I mean, obviously they've had some. I'm not a structural engineer, though, so I'm not going to guarantee
Probably
anything.
A good thing.
Okay?
But he did say at a Holiday Inn Express last night, bada boom.
Yes. But I'm going to be down on the field. I'm not going to be in the press box for this one. No, I'm just kidding. No, obviously the stadium has had some issues, but they're in the middle of a lawsuit trying to get some money back. I think a lot of those issues have been overblown because I think UCF is overblowing it to try to get as much money back from the people who built this as they can.
Sure. Let's talk about things that people built. That trophy, man. Would you put that thing in your house?
Yeah. I was trying to get the civil conflict trophy that nobody knows where that is, the UCF-UConn trophy. So, yeah, the War on I-4 trophy, absolutely I would have that in my house.
Front and center. How about you, George? Do you think you could present that right there, sit it on your trophy stadium or trophy table in your house if you want it?
Well, Bianchi's fashion tastes include, he's got cinder blocks with plywood, where he's got all his old Leonard Skinner and Molly Hatchet albums.
Got my Budweiser mirror
empty ones. So, that shows the motif he's got going on. So, yeah, Bianchi, I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on that. I think the wife might say, not happening.
I got you. It looked good next to your neon lights, right, Mike?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about one more question. What do you think? Let me have you pick the score. What do you think it's going to be today?
I think the score today, again, I think UCF is going to win this game relatively handily. I'm going to go UCF 45, USF 24.
Man, everyone's gone to that high score. What about you, George? 45, even defense like USF?
I don't know, 45. I'm going 31-17.
31-17. Why are you thinking that?
I just think it's going to be, the rivalry. Both teams are being amped up. I don't think it's going to be that crazy of a ping pong kind of game. But certainly USF, Central Florida has a lot more going for it on the offensive side of the ball.
It needs to be 64-12, though, to make up for when Jim Levitt ran up the score on George O'Leary. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Huh? Please expect that.
I hope your tires don't get slashed tonight, for there's some people out there watching. Might be, South Florida fans, Bianchi.
Well, always interesting. As you guys can see, it's getting pretty crazy out here at UCF, getting ready for the big game, UCF-USF. We're going to head off to some of the tweets we've got so you guys can see what people are saying about this big game. Mike Bianchi, George Diaz, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll be right back. Rich Pope here, live at UCF before the big game. I have Mike Bianchi here. Also, rumblings coming from this guy, and it's not because he's hungry for leftover turkey. He's talking Heisman Trophy winner.
I wrote it in the Orlando Sentinel earlier this week. All I said is I'm a Heisman voter, and as a Heisman voter, I'm going to consider Mackenzie Milton. I mean, again, he's second in the nation as a quarterback rating, passing efficiency, completion percentage, leads the #1 scoring offense in the country. Why wouldn't this guy get consideration?
Right.
Led UCF to an unbeaten season, one of only 4 unbeaten seasons, or one of only 4 unbeaten teams. I don't think he's going to win it, but guys like me need to stand up for him. So absolutely, if he wins today and wins the conference championship game, Mackenzie Milton will be on my ballot.
Do you think you're the lone man beaten in the dark? Do you think other writers are saying, get back down off that ledge, Mike Bianchi?
Well, no. Well, I think a lot of writers, again, if he wins these next 2 games and puts up big stats, I think he'll be on a lot of ballots. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's second in the nation in passing efficiency, one of only 4 quarterbacks to lead an unbeaten team. How can you not consider this guy?
Yeah. What would you say this game today means for both these teams?
Well, it's the biggest game in the short rivalry that these teams have developed. I don't think there's any question about that. And I mean, it means everything. I mean, you win this game, you go to a conference championship game, you win the conference championship game, you go to one of those big New Year's Day bowl games, and it's not like UCF and USF have been to a lot of these big bowl games. UCF's been to one. USF, they've never been to a major bowl game. So it's huge. I mean, it's big for recruiting. It's big for exposure. It's big for maybe keeping Scott Frost in the fold here. If he says, hey, I can go unbeaten here and go to a big bowl game. When's the last time Nebraska went to a major bowl game? It's been like 20 years. When's the last time Florida went to a major bowl game? Been a lot of years. So, I just think it means everything today. I said this earlier. Even though USF leads this series 6-2, if UCF wins today, they take over the series because this game means more than all the others combined. It really does.
That's right. You talked about Florida State, Florida. Are you surprised that this game today seems to outshine that game coming up, which typically is reserved for this weekend?
Is Florida State playing this weekend? Really?
They are. I think they are.
Yeah, it's amazing. Florida State is the afterthought bowl. Nobody thought that. It's a noon game on Saturday, which is the game reserved for, the also ran. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody would have ever. I even asked Scott Frost that this weekend or this week, and he goes, you know what? I don't know how big that game is. I just know this is a huge game for UCF and USF, and he goes, it's going to continue to be a big game.
Yeah, let's talk about one other undefeated team in the state. University of Miami. It's almost like UCF has kind of stolen their thunder. It's almost like the Cinderella team. You hear about it, but it seems like UCF's the story of Florida right now. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Am I going on a limb there? Am I going too far out there?
I think you're being a little provincial. Miami is number 2 in the country. They're in the
exactly. You're right.
They're in the college football playoff right now. Now they have to win today to beat Pitt, and then they will have to beat Clemson in the ACC title game. But no, Miami's getting a lot of national publicity, obviously with the turnover chain, and that's become sort of the symbol of the college football season. So I don't think Miami's being overlooked. But certainly in this city, they're being overlooked because UCF is the story in Orlando right now.
You say we're a little provincial thinking. Do you think nationwide, UCF, USF, does this game mean something?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, people are looking at this game because, the two coaches, Charlie Strong and Scott Frost, are hot commodities right now. So they want to see how these coaches are doing. And I think people are really curious about UCF now. UCF's starting to get some national hype. They want to look at the offense. This will be the first time that many fans around the country will get to see UCF. I mean, this is a prime time 3:30 game, Black Friday. There's going to be a lot of people at home watching this game.
Yeah, it almost seems fitting that it's this gloomy day. You would expect this for the war on I-4, wouldn't you say? Absolutely.
We like gloomy, we like grimy. That's what this series is about, getting down in the dirt and seeing who's going to win this thing. And again, I think this is the biggest home game in UCF history since the stadium opened against Texas. I mean, that's how big this game is.
Yeah, well, let's see if this stadium holds. It's a little rusty right now, but exciting day. Actually, we're tailgating here at UCF Live. We're going to wrap up game 330, biggest rivalry game between these two teams, UCF, USF. Had some of the greatest of Orlando Sentinel columnist writers here giving you the lowdown. Mike Bianchi, thanks so much. I'm Rich Pope. We're signing out. Keep an eye on the game, 330.